everyone, it's me again, Cynthia Oliva of Cassiekoy Crochet. Today, I'm gonna teach you how to make this very feminine and lovely top, which I named Cassandra Crop Top. This particular top fits from small to medium, but of course, we may have different outcome depending on the yarn weight, hook size, and the tension. So, feel free to explore to achieve your desired size. To get started, prepare the following materials. Now, grab your yarn and hook, which is 3mm. Then, make a slip knot. Insert your hook there and make 27 chains. I now have 27 chains, so you skip the first chain from the hook and place one single crochet on the second, and then continue by placing single crochet on each of the chains across. When you finish this row, you must have 26 single crochets. This is my last single crochet. After this, place chain of 1 to end this row. And then turn your work. For the second row, place one single crochet on each of the back loops. Remember guys that the loop nearest to you is the front loop. So, work on the opposite side, which are the back loops. On the previous row, we had 26 stitches. So for this row and on the succeeding, you must have the same number of stitches. Just continue working on the back loops until you reach the end of this row. Then, repeat the same process as what you did on the first and second rows. Again, to end this, don't forget to chain 1 and then turn your work to proceed to the next row. Then, I'll meet you when I finished this waistband. Here it is now guys, I'm almost done. So this is made of 133 rows of back loops single crochets, which is enough to cover my waistline. If you want to get your exact measurement, try it on your waistline and decide if it is well fitted on you or not yet. So to finish this waistband, let's attach the two sides by slip stitching on the back loop and on the remaining loop of the other side. So just repeat this process until you reach the end of this row. But before you close this guys, remember, when you try it on, do not stretch it much. Make sure that it will still fit on your head and shoulders when you wear the finished project. Alright, so I'm done with the waistband. Now, we're gonna be placing single crochet stitches on each of the row or stitches. So I made 133 rows for the waistband, which means I should also have 133 single crochets for the first round. Then, you will slip stitch on the very first single crochet and chain 1 to close the round. Again, just simply place one single crochet on each of the stitches, and then I'll meet you when it's done. Now I'm nearly done on the first round. So just slip stitch on the very first single crochet here, and then just chain 1. Then proceed to round 2 by placing one double crochet on that very same stitch. continue placing 1 double crochet on each of the stitches until you reach the end of this round. At this point, you are already seeing a little curve on the waistband, and that's normal. And to finish this round, just continue placing 1 double crochet on each of the stitches. Slip stitch on the very first double crochet, then close the round with a chain 1. Turn your work. In round 3, put 1 single crochet on this very same stitch. Then continue with 1 single crochet on each of the stitches until you reach the end of this round. At this point, before we start round 4, we are going to be dividing our top into 2 panels. As what I mentioned earlier, I have 133 rows in the waistband, which means I also have 133 stitches. What I did is divide 133 stitches into 2, so I have 66.5. But since I can't have 0.5, I allotted 67 stitches in the front panel and 66 at the back. As you can see, to avoid confusion, I placed a stitch marker on the other side. For the front, I placed 3 stitch markers. The one here at the middle is where I'm gonna place front post double crochets. These 2 here, on the other hand, are where I'm gonna have front post treble crochets done in braided stitches. So, the distance of the braided stitches from the middle is based on the distance also of my bust points or the nipples, which is 8 inches. Then, I deducted 1 from 8 inches, which means I only have 7 inches. That is, 8 inches minus 1 equals 7 inches. So, from the middle, I should place a marker when it reaches 3.5 on both sides. Meanwhile, for the back panel, I counted 15 stitches from both sides, which leaves me 26 stitches at the center. So if you want to avoid counting, just simply align the stitch markers on the front panel to the back panel, because that is where we are gonna be placing braided stitches too. Now let's proceed. Close the previous row with a chain 1. Turn your work, and then on that very same stitch, place 1 double crochet and continue making 1 double crochet on each of the stitches, and pause when you have 2 stitches left before the stitch marker. We now have 2 stitches left before the stitch marker. This is where we're gonna place the braided stitches, so we will have 5 treble crochets on the next 5 stitches. What we're gonna do is yarn over twice, and then on this double crochet, we're gonna place a front post treble crochet. Okay, so that is the second stitch from the stitch marker. And then skip this, skip the next double crochet. Okay, so this is the second chain from the stitch marker. So that's where we placed our front post treble crochet. Now this one, we are gonna skip this and proceed to the next double crochet under the stitch marker. So here is where we're gonna have our treble crochet stitch. So just yarn over twice and then insert your hook there, pull through 2 and pull through 2 and another 2. Okay, for the third time, yarn over twice, and then on the 4th stitch here beside the stitch marker, we're going to have a treble crochet, front post treble crochet stitch. For the 4th time, another treble crochet stitch, but we're going to do that on the double crochet that we skipped. So here, make another front post treble crochet, pull through 2, another 2, and the last 2. Okay, so we have 4 treble crochets now. For the 5th time, you place a front post treble crochet on the 5th double crochet. Okay, so here. So pull through 2 and pull through 2 and the last 2. Okay, so in total, we must have 5 treble crochet stitches. Now look at the stitches at the back. Make sure that you will only skip 5 stitches, including the one with stitch marker. After that, you can place 1 double crochet on the next stitches until you reach the marker at the middle of the front panel. Again, double check if you have only skipped 5 stitches there at the back of the treble crochet stitches. Okay, so I'm here on the stitch beside the marker. On the double crochet under this stitch, place a front post double crochet instead of treble crochet. Again, what you're seeing is a front post treble crochet. Instead of treble crochet, place only a double crochet. This is because we're gonna be creating a wider V shape for the cleavage part. Then, when you finish that part, proceed by placing 1 double crochet on each of the stitches until you have 2 stitches left before the next stitch marker. Now, I have 2 stitches left. At this point, we're gonna repeat the braided stitches that we did on the other side. Now we'll be working on the next stitch. So under that, make a front post treble crochet. Yarn over twice, insert your hook there and make a front post treble crochet. So pull through 2, 2, and the last 2. Yarn over twice again, skip this double crochet. And then on the double crochet under the stitch marker, here is the 3rd double crochet. Place another treble crochet there. Yarn over twice, and then on the next double crochet is another front post treble crochet. Yarn over twice, go back to the double crochet we skipped and place a front post treble crochet. And then yarn over twice again, and on the 5th double crochet, place another front post treble crochet. Okay, so now we have 5 treble crochet stitches. Make sure again to skip 5 stitches here at the back of the treble crochet stitches. That includes the one with a stitch marker. Then continue placing 1 double crochet stitches. As you can see, we're approaching the next stitch marker, so you'll just simply place 1 double crochet there because that's a marker that divides our front and back panel. Now we're already working at the back panel. So here is the next stitch marker. This is where I'm gonna place another braided stitches. Just like what you did on the braided stitches on the front panel, you just pause when you have reached the 2 stitches before the stitch marker, and then there you placed treble crochet stitches or front post treble crochet stitches, and do exactly as what we did on the other braided stitches. Okay, before you proceed to the double crochet stitches, just make sure that you are skipping 5 stitches, including the one with a stitch marker. That is 2 stitches before and after the stitch marker. Okay, now I have 5 stitches already, so I will continue placing 1 double crochet until I reach this next stitch marker, and again place another treble crochets. Then close the round by slip stitching. Okay, so as you can see, we have braided stitches on 2 sides and 1 front post double crochet at the center, and at the back are also 2 braided stitches. Now for the next round, turn your work and place 1 single crochet on each of the stitches until you reach the end of the round. So this is very easy. By the way, on the succeeding round or rows, you are just going to have an alternate of a single crochet and double crochet stitches. Okay, so when you're done on the double crochet stitches, make sure that on the next you will be placing single crochet stitches. Okay, so right after the single crochet stitches, proceed to the double crochets where you're gonna make the braided stitches. Okay, now let's proceed to the next round. Don't forget to turn your work so we can follow the braided stitches, and then on that very same stitch you place a double crochet and then another double crochets on the succeeding stitches and make another braided stitches when you reach that part. Okay, now we are on the braided stitch on the front panel. So just yarn over twice, and then on that treble crochet stitch, place also another treble crochet stitch. Then for the second time, yarn over twice, skip one treble crochet, and then on the third, place another treble crochet stitch. Yarn over twice again on the fourth. Here, place another treble crochet. Go through two, another two, and another two. So again, for the fourth time, go back to the treble crochet that we skipped. This one. Insert your hook there and pull through two, another two, and another two. Okay, yarn over twice and go back to the very last treble crochet and place another treble crochet there. Okay, so we're done on the treble crochet stitch or stitches. So make sure again that you skip 5 stitches at the back of these stitches. Okay, and then on the 6th stitch, place a double crochet just like what you did previously. Then when you reach the middle part, make sure that you are placing also a double crochet front post. Okay, and then just do exactly as what you did, and here it is. I'm already on the 14th round. So on the previous round, which are single crochets, I started my increases. Okay, so we have here the braided stitches on the front panel, so please look closely. I'm going to show you what I did on the previous round. So on the second and fourth stitch, I placed an increase. Okay, so since I'm already on the 14th round and I failed to show you that part, let me just show you again. So let's say this is single crochet. On the second stitch here will be an increase, so I will place 2 single crochets on that same stitch. So I already placed one. This is the second. Okay, at this point we have 3 stitches already. Now on the third stitch, place a single crochet, only 1 single crochet. And then on the fourth stitch, place 2 single crochets. And then 1 single crochet on the 5th stitch. So we are just basically increasing on the second and fourth stitches on the braided stitch. Okay, anyway, I did the increase for 2 times, so I'm gonna show you how to do that on the second time. For the meantime, let's continue this part. So place again another braided stitch here. So since on the previous round I increased, so here's my increase on the second stitch. So you can see I have 2 stitches here. So this is my first stitch, and then on the second stitch I have an increase, so I have here 2 stitches. Then on the third I placed 1 single crochet only. For the fourth stitch I have an increase again, so I placed here 2 single crochets. Then on the fifth I placed only 1 single crochet. Okay, so technically we have 7 stitches on top of our braided stitches. On the previous rows, I mentioned that we must skip 5 stitches only, but since we have 7 here, now instead of going through here for the front post treble crochet, we will now have another double crochet, and then on the next stitch, that's the only time you can proceed to the front post treble crochet, and by this time we only have 6 stitches on top of the braided stitches. Okay, so here's our first treble crochet, and then repeat the same thing as what you did on the previous rows. Make another front post treble crochet on the third treble crochet. Okay, so the second one will be skipped just like what we did, and then on the fourth, make another treble crochet there. So the next step will be another treble crochet on the front post here, on the second front post treble crochet. And lastly, one here. Okay, now look at the stitches at the back of the treble stitches and then count 5 stitches only. After this, continue placing 1 double crochet on each of the stitches until you reach the braided stitches at the back panel. Then for the next round, round 15, you are going to make an increase again. Alright, at this point, I'll show you how to increase. So I'm in round 15. I will now work on top of the braided stitches. So on the very first braided stitch from this one, from the hook, I will place 1 single crochet. And then on the second chain or stitch, I'll have 2 stitches here, or 2 single crochets. That was the increase. And then on the third stitch, place 1 single crochet. On the fourth stitch, place an increase as well by having 2 single crochets, and on the fifth will be 1 single crochet. Then you will basically place 1 single crochet on each of the stitches until you reach the other braided stitch on the front panel. Now I'm on the other braided stitch on the front panel, so let me show you one more time how to do the increases. On top of the first braided stitch, you will place 1 single crochet, and then on the second will be 2 single crochets on the same stitch. On the third will be 1 single crochet, fourth will be 2, and on the fifth will be 1 single crochet. Okay, and then continue the rest with 1 single crochet. I'm on the 16th round, so I'll be working now on the first braided stitch on the front panel. So just like what we did on the previous braided stitches, we have 7 stitches here on top of these. Now we will be leaving 5 stitches only. That's why we have to place a double crochet instead of treble crochet. After that, you can then proceed to the treble crochet stitches. Okay, so you go through the front post treble crochet and make a treble crochet also, and then skip the second treble crochet, and on the next, here on the third front post, we'll have another treble crochet. On the fourth front post, make another treble crochet, and then yarn over twice and place 1 front post treble crochet on the second treble crochet. And then finally, here is the last one, and repeat this on the other side. But don't forget to skip 5 stitches only at the back of the treble crochets and then proceed to the double crochet stitches. Now we're at the middle of the front panel. So normally we place a double crochet here, front post double crochet. So this time we'll make a front post half double crochet. Then continue with 1 double crochet on each of the stitches until you reach the braided stitch on the other side. At this point, I'm closing round 16 by slip stitching and putting chain 1. Now after this, we will be working on the front panel only. Okay, so we ended the back panel with 16 rows. So this time, we will be decreasing. Okay, so just place 1 single crochet on the same stitch. And then on the next 2 stitches, so 1 and 2 will be a single crochet together. Okay, so on the next will be single crochet, and then on the next 2 will be 2 single crochets together. Then proceed with 1 single crochet across until you reach the other side. You must have 6 stitches left, including the one with the stitch marker. And make decreases. Okay, so single crochet together on these 2 stitches. On the next will be 1 single crochet, and then on the next 2 again will be 2 single crochets together. And on the stitch where the stitch marker is placed, put 1 single crochet. Chain 1 to end this row. Turn your work. And then we will also decrease for the double crochet stitches. Okay, on this same stitch, place a double crochet. And then on the next 2, we will have 2 double crochets together. So 1 and 2, pull through the 3 of them. And then on the next will be 1 double crochet until you reach the braided stitches, and repeat the same thing as what we did on the previous rows. Okay, I'll just meet you when we reach this part, when we have to make decreases again. Okay, this time make another 2 double crochets together, 1 and 2. Pull through 3 and 1 double crochet on the very last stitch. Okay, chain 1 to end the row, and then turn your work. By the way guys, don't forget that at the middle of the front panel, we have to place a front post half double crochet. Now, let's proceed to the next round. So, we are just basically repeating what we did on the 2 previous rounds. So, just make 2 single crochets together for 2 times, okay? And then for the next round, double crochet again, but don't forget we have to decrease 1 more time. Double crochet on that same stitch. On the next 2 stitches will be 2 double crochets together. Pull through these 3 and place 1 double crochet on each of the stitches until you reach again the braided stitches. I'm now at the other side of this row, so make a double crochet together again here. So 1 and then another 1 and pull through 3 and then 1 double crochet on the very last. Close this row with a chain 1, turn your work, then single crochet on that same stitch, decrease again for 2 times, single crochet together on the next 2, single crochet until you reach the other side. Okay, at this point we have 6 stitches remaining. So on the next 2 stitches, we will place a single crochet together. On the next will be 1 single crochet and then single crochet together, and then 1 last single crochet, chain 1 and turn your work, and then double crochet now on that same stitch, and then decrease again by placing 2 double crochets together, 1 and then 2, go through 3. Okay, basically guys, we're just repeating what we did over and over again. So we're just making decreases and increases, so don't be confused. Okay, just make another decrease on this part, on the other side. At this point guys, I have 4 stitches left. So here's our front post double crochet and half double crochets. So this is the middle part of the front panel. I will just place 1 double crochet for the last time, and then on the next 2 stitches will be half double crochet. So here is where I'm gonna place my first half double crochet, and then on the next will be another half double crochet, and on the very last here before the front post will be a single crochet, and then I'll make 1 front post single crochet. Okay, so 1 front post single crochet, and then on the next stitch make sure at the back you're leaving you're skipping 1 stitch, and then on the next will be a single crochet. On the next 2 will be half double crochets, so 1 and another 1 on the third. Okay, and then after that, proceed by placing 1 double crochet in each of the stitches. After this guys, proceed to row 23 and don't forget to make decreases just like what we did on the previous rows. Okay, now I'm done with row 23, so let's proceed to row 24. On this same stitch, you're going to place 1 double crochet. So this time we will be decreasing for 2 times on this side. So 2 double crochets together. So pull through 3 and another 2 double crochets together. Pull through 3 and then proceed to the braided stitches. Now we're at the middle part of the front post, row 24. So I have here 5 stitches before the front post single crochet. On the next 3 stitches, we will place half double crochet. So this is the first one, 1 half double crochet, and then the second half double crochet, and here's the third half double crochet, and then on the fourth will be a single crochet and another single crochet. So single crochet front post again. Then after this, place 1 single crochet on the next 2 stitches. Okay, just make sure that you skipped 1 stitch here. Okay, here's the first single crochet and then the second one. And then on the next 3 stitches, place half double crochet stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. And then the next will be double crochets and braided stitches. Just don't forget to decrease at the end of this row. Alright guys, so we are already on row 25. Just place 1 single crochet here and 2 single crochets together on the next. Single crochet on the next stitches. So we will be decreasing once only, okay? And then we will repeat the decrease on the other side of this row. Now I went straight to row 25, so on that same stitch, you place 1 single crochet and then on the next 2 will be single crochet together. So this is going to be the last row, okay? And the same thing on the other side as well, you will be decreasing, okay? Here will be a single crochet, a normal single crochet, and single crochet front post. By the way guys, I think I'll be running out of yarn, so I will be changing the color of my edging. So this will be the last row. So later, I'm going to change it with white. Rest assured that what I show you here on this part will be the same thing as what I did when I changed the color, okay? So now, another decrease. And we will be working around the crop top, okay? So for all the rows with single crochet stitches, we will place 1 single crochet, and for the rows with double crochet stitches, then we will place 2 single crochets, okay? Now we're done placing 1 single crochet on each of the stitches for the front panel. So this time, we'll proceed straight to the back panel until we reach the very first single crochet that we did on row 26. Okay, so this is how it looks like right now. But again, I will be changing its color later. So here it is. Again, I was running out of yarn, so I had to improvise. I used white color here. Now to close this round, we will slip stitch on the very first single crochet. But before we continue, grab the other end of the yarn. So we will be having a double pull right now because we are going to continue with our straps. So by this time, you are pulling 2 ends of your yarn. Then we will be making 80 chains. You can have more or less of that depending on your desired length. Just continue this until you're satisfied with the length, and then you can place tassels if you want. And for the very last part of this video, you're going to place 1 single crochet on each of the stitches or on each of the rows. After working on this part, then you're done and you can try it on already. So this is my Cassandra crochet top. If you like this guys, please don't hesitate to hit that like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't yet. And remember, this is a free pattern so you can share it. That's it for today and thank you for watching.